Good afternoon to all the students.
Good
So
afternoon, sir.
So in the last
afternoon,
class
sir.
we have started some of the important concepts regarding this inheritance, right? We have gone through what inheritance is, why inheritance is required, and what are the modes of inheritance we have, and then we have seen the types of inheritance. Totally how many types of inheritance are there? Can anybody please respond?
5 types, sir.
5 types.
Single inheritance,
Single inheritance, super. Next,
Multiple inheritance,
multiple inheritance,
multiple inheritance,
multi-level inheritance,
multi-level,
hierarchical,
hierarchical, and
and hybrid
hybrid
inheritance.
inheritance.
right. So we have gone up to the hybrid inheritance, I think, right?
Yes, sir.
So hybrid inheritance
Yes,
is
sir.
hybrid inheritance is a combination of more than one type of inheritance. Right? You will combine 2 or 3 inheritances, and then we call such type of inheritance as a hybrid inheritance, right? So most probably we will be combining the hierarchical and multiple inheritance to form the hybrid inheritance, right? So this multiple hybrid inheritance is also called as virtual inheritance. We will see why it is called as virtual inheritance in short while. So other than this, one of the variant, we can say it as a variant of this hybrid inheritance is multi-path inheritance, right? Multi-path, right? So here is a combination of again the hierarchical as well as the multi-level, but this time what we will do is, this is class A, and from class A I derive 2 subclasses. This is class B and this is class C, and from these subclasses I will make use of a multi-level inheritance. So up to this, from A deriving B and C, this is called as hierarchical inheritance. And now what I will do is, I will combine, or I will take these multiple classes, that is class B and class C, and I try to inherit these 2 as the base classes, and I try to derive a class called D. So from this point to this point we call it as multiple inheritance. So we are combining these 2 types of inheritances, so that we call this as the hybrid inheritance. We combinedly call it as hybrid inheritance. Up to here we don't have any problem, right? But the concept here is, as we have discussed in the earlier class itself, assume that there is a member function, data member A, or any member function, whatever it may be. We are not worried about whether it is a data member or member function, but whenever the class A is having a member A, let us go with the data member only. If it is having data member A, and when I derive the subclasses B and C, we get copies from A, right? So B will be having a copy of A, which is a data member of class A, and C is also having a copy of A, which is also a subclass of this A, right? So up to here we don't have any problem. Why? Because this B and C are different classes, and you can do it, right? But whenever I derive a subclass D from these base classes, that is B and C, which are already derived from A, right? So it will also have a copy of A, but the problem arises at this point, from whom I should take this A. So whenever I access A from this object created from this class D, so I create an object of class D, and if I want to access this data member A, then the compiler will get confused. It will not have any idea of whether it should take this A from B or it should take this A from C. So that is the problem with this multi-path inheritance, right? We have multi-paths. This is one path from A to D, and this is from another path from A to D. That is the reason why we call this as the multi-path inheritance. So in such type of multi-path inheritance, we have the disadvantage that the compiler gets confused of the data member that is present inside the derived class. So the confusion here is the compiler will not know whether it has to take this A from B or whether it has to take this A from C, right? So to avoid this problem or to overcome this disadvantage, we have two types of solutions, right? One is using the scope resolution operator and another one is by making use of the virtual concept. That is the reason why we call this hybrid inheritance as virtual inheritance also. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. So multipath inheritance is a special case of hybrid inheritance. This is what we have discussed. And here what happens is a derived class with two base classes, and these two base classes have one common base class. Right. This is called as multipath inheritance. I already given this definition of multipath inheritance. Why this is called as multipath means the class D has been derived with two different paths from the same class A. Right. So this is one path and this is another path. For this reason we call this as the multipath inheritance. Right. So an ambiguity can arise in this type of inheritance. For example, so what type of combinations we are taking here? We are combining the hierarchical inheritance and the multiple inheritance. So in such case we will get an ambiguity. We will see what this ambiguity is. So here is an example of the multipath inheritance, programming example. So please concentrate on this example. We know what this CON-IO and IO stream is. What for we make use of this CON-IO? What is this CON-IO?
Console input output.
Console input output.h, right? It is a header file which deals with the input output of console. Console is nothing but the monitor only, right? So in general we make use of this CON-IO.h when we are using a function, a predefined function called getch, right? Otherwise you can avoid this header file also, right? So what is this first class I am creating? What is the name of the class?
Class A, sir.
Class A. So how many data members are there inside this class A?
One, sir.
Only
A.
one data member A, that is of type public. That means the access mode of this particular data member is public, right? And in the second definition here, I am creating a subclass called class B and I am deriving it from class A publicly, right? Now I have another data member that exclusively belongs to this B. Is my voice clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Clear, sir.
Right. So this class B is having a public data member called B, but since it has been derived from class A publicly, then it also has one more data member which is called A. Right. So it is having, the class B is having a copy of A which is a public data member of class A. Up to here you are clear, right?
Yes, sir.
And in this definition what I am doing is I am creating a subclass called class C. Again I am deriving this class C from class A which is public, right? So it is also having a public data member called C, but since it has been derived from class A publicly, it also consists of the public data member which is present inside this A. Therefore the members that are present inside this class C are A and C, and the members that are present inside this class B are A and B, and the only public member that is present inside this class A is A, right? So let us represent it diagrammatically. This is class A and this is class B and this is class C. So it is having a data member A and this is having A comma B and this is having A and C. right? Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Now
Yes,
I am
sir.
creating another subclass
Clear, sir.
called as class D from two base classes, class B and class C, and both of them I want to make use, or I want to derive publicly, right? So what happens here, a subclass D is created from class B and class C, and it is having a public data member called D. But since it has been derived from class B and class C, it also consists of B comma C, which are the exclusive data members of class B and class C respectively, and they also have the two copies of A. One copy is from class B and another copy is from class C. Here it is having two copies. Can you observe this diagram?
Yes, sir.
Right. So the total data members that are present inside this D are totally 5 data members. B, C, D. D is the exclusive data member of class D, and C is the data member of class C. But since we have derived this class D from class C, C is also existing inside this D. And similarly, B is an exclusive data member of B. Since D has been derived publicly from class B, it also consists of B. But this class B and class C are derived publicly from class A. Therefore, it consists of two copies of A. One is from class B and another one is from class C. Right. So let us go with this main function. What is this statement called? What is that I am doing in this statement?
Object creation.
Creating an object.
Super. I am creating an object of which class? You should tell for what class you are creating the object. That is important.
Class D, sir.
Class D,
sir.
which is the last one, right? This is the subclass. So I am creating
Yes,
an
sir.
object of class D, and let us forget about these things, right? It's not. Let us see what happens here. So what is this object dot A?
Class A member, sir.
No. You tell me what is this object dot A? What I am trying to do here?
Assigning value.
In the data
Assigning,
member.
sir.
Okay, I am trying to assign a value of 10 to what data member I am assigning?
Public.
No. I am assigning 10 to which data member?
Integer.
Yes, sir.
What is the name of that variable?
Yes, sir.
It is A.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
So in this statement, I am trying to assign a value of 10 to the variable A using the object of class D. Do class D consists of A?
Yes, sir.
Does class D
Yes,
consists of the data member A or not? Yes, it consists of A. But at this point, the compiler will get confused whether it has to assign this 10 to A that belongs to class B, or whether it has to assign this 10 to the variable A that belongs to class C. This is the confusion the compiler will get, right? Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is also the same thing. Here I am trying to assign a value of 100 to a variable A by using the object of class D. But in class D I am having two copies of A. One is from B and one is from C. To which copy of A I should assign this 100? This is the confusion that the compiler will get. So that is the reason why these two statements, statement 1 and statement 2, they raise an error. Right. So that's the reason why I have kept it. For explanation purpose, the author has kept like this. Right. He has given these, what are these called as? Comments. He has kept these two statements in the comments. Right. Now how to resolve it? How can I tell the compiler that you take the copy of A from B, or you take the value of A, you take the copy of A from C, how would I tell? That is very simple, right? The belongingness is always done by making use of the scope resolution operator, right? In the previous class, when we are discussing the concept of defining the member functions of a class, how many ways you can define the member functions of a class?
Inside and outside the class, sir.
Super, right? Inside the class and outside the class. When you define the function inside the class, there is no problem. But when you define a function outside the class, you should tell the compiler to which class that the function belongs to. That is done by making use of scope resolution operator. If you observe the syntax of the function definition outside the class, you will write the class name followed by the scope resolution operator. So this particular syntax, the class name and the scope resolution operator, is used whenever you want to tell the compiler about the belongingness, right? So if you observe this third statement, statement 3, I am using the object of class D and I am using a dot operator, which is a member access operator. And you can observe here that before this A, which is a member of class D, I am using a special syntax called class B followed by scope resolution operator. So what does this particular statement tell to the compiler? It will tell to the compiler that you please assign the value of 10 to A, and this A should belong to class B. So this is called as belongingness. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
So now
Yes, sir.
10 will be assigned to a particular variable. 10 will be assigned to a variable A, which is derived from class B. And after this I have the statement 4, which I am making use of the syntax like this: obj, which is a object of class D, dot class C scope resolution operator A. Then the author is trying to tell the compiler that you please assign the value of 100 to the variable A, which belongs to class C. So for this copy of A, we will get the 100. And for the remaining things, can I access the B which belongs to class B in using the object of class D? Is this statement correct or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
sir.
Why? Because
Yes,
they
sir.
are the public members. The B, C, D are given as the public members of the class. So you can access them outside the class also. Right. So that is the reason why I am using this object which belongs to class D, and I am assigning the value of 20 to B. Therefore this B will have 20. And object C of 30. So this C will have 30. Object D is equal to 40. D will have a value of 40. Now I am just printing it. C out A from class B is the value which is 10, and A from class C is 100. See here how I am printing. The same syntax I am using, right? Object dot class C followed by the scope resolution operator followed by A. Similarly, I print this B, C, D by using this object dot B and object dot C and object dot D respectively. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Clear, sir.
So this is one solution of avoiding the ambiguity, or to you just give a clear idea to the compiler. You give the direction to the compiler that you please access this particular copy from this class only by making use of scope resolution operator and the class that we are calling it as the belongingness. The belongingness should be given with the syntax like class followed by the scope resolution operator. Right. We will see another example or another solution. There are two solutions. We will again repeat this particular example again, and then we will see the things. Right. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. The same thing we are repeating, the ambiguity in multipath inheritance. So in the above example, both class B and class C have been derived or inherited from class A. They both have a single copy of class A, which is nothing but the data member small a. Right. However, class D has been inherited from both class B and class C. Therefore, class D have two copies of class A. This is important, right? One from class B and another from class C. So if you need to access the data member of a class A through the object of class D, which we have seen in the earlier example, we must specify the path from which A will be accessed. This A is nothing but the data member. Whether you want to access it from class B or whether you want to access it from class C, right? This is the reason why we are going to do that, why we are going to specify the path. Means the compiler cannot resolve the ambiguity on its own. The compiler, it cannot differentiate between the two copies of class A in class D. So there are two copies of class A in class D, so the compiler cannot differentiate. So for this purpose, you have to externally specify, or you have to externally tell the compiler that you take this copy, you take this copy. This is you take this copy from B, you take this copy from C. This is what you have to tell the compiler explicitly. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And how we are going
Yes,
to avoid
sir.
this ambiguity in multipath inheritance? Means there are two solutions. There are two ways to avoid this ambiguity. So one way is using the scope resolution operator. Just now we have seen, right? So using scope resolution operator, we can manually specify. You can observe here, it is not automatically taken care by the compiler. You means the programmer have to specify manually the path from which the data member A will be accessed, right, as shown in statements 3 and 4 in the above example, right. So can anybody please tell me what does this statement give? What information does this statement give?
It belongs to class B, sir.
No, you please tell me in the full form. That means this is an assignment operation, right? I am going to assign
Yes, sir.
value, right? From there you start.
Yes, sir.
The
We are
data
assigning a
member
value.
A belong.
Right. We are trying to assign a value of 10. Continue.
To the data member of class B, sir.
To
By
which data
creating an-
member? To which data member?
A,
Yes,
sir.
A.
A,
Right. Right. A that belongs to class B.
Class B.
That is how you have to understand, right? I am trying to, again I will tell it with this example, right? I am trying to assign a value of 100 to the data member A that belongs to class C. How do I say that this A belongs to class C? By this belongingness syntax. So by this scope resolution operator. So I keep this class name followed by the scope resolution operator. This tells the compiler that you are going to use a copy of A that belongs to class C, right? So the another way of avoiding this ambiguity that occurs in the multipath inheritance is by using the virtual base classes. Virtual, right? What is the other name for hybrid inheritance?
Virtual base.
Virtual inheritance,
Virtual inheritance.
right? The reason is we are going to avoid the ambiguity by making use of, sometimes we make use of these virtual base classes. So for this reason we call it as the virtual inheritance, right? So we'll try to explain this virtual base classes using a programming example, but before this we okay, this is done. The same solution 1 for resolving the ambiguity using scope resolution operator. The same program which we have described in the earlier slide, I am making use of the same program here itself, right? Class A, which consists of only one data member, that is A, and class B is created by inheriting class A publicly, so it will have a copy of A and B. And similarly class C is publicly inherited from class A, therefore it consists of A and C. And since class D has been derived from class B and class C publicly, it will contain the original data member of class D, which is D, and it also consists of B that belongs to B and C that belongs to C, and one copy of A from B and one copy of A from C. Right. So by making use of this scope resolution operator, we are able to tell the compiler clearly that you please take the copy from so and so class. Right. So this is clear, right? So we will move to the other one. Solution 2, that means for resolving the ambiguity using virtual classes. Virtual is nothing but a keyword, that's it. Right. Why we are going to use this virtual classes, all these things we'll discuss, right? So virtual classes are used to avoid the ambiguity that arises in the multipath inheritance, and virtual is also used to save the space. How we are going to save the space, that we will tell it, right? But it is used to save the space, and purely it is used to avoid the ambiguity that arises in multipath inheritance. Same example I am taking here. Class A consists of a public data member A, and class B, which is derived from class A publicly, right? But look at this syntax here. I am using a keyword called virtual. What is this one? Virtual is a keyword. Right. So you can interchange this public and virtual. You can write it as public virtual class A or virtual public class A. There is no error in interchanging this public and virtual keywords, because they both are keywords only, right? Up to this point you are clear, right?
Yes, sir.
Now it has
Yes,
the
sir.
class B is having a public data member B. Similarly, I am creating a subclass called class C, which is publicly inherited from class A, but I am declaring this base class as the virtual base class, right? So here it is having a public data member called C. Now you look at this one. This is important. So what happens here is I am creating a class D, which is publicly inherited from class B and class C, right? So and it consists of a public data member D, and since it is derived publicly from B and C, it will have the B and C data members that belongs to class B and class C respectively, right? Now listen, you may have a doubt that what happens to this A, sir. Right. So what happens to this A means, since you have created the class B and class C using the virtual base class class A, only one copy of this particular data member from class A will be present inside this class D. That is the power of this virtuality, right? So whenever you declare or whenever you create the subclasses using virtual keyword or virtual base classes, we can call this as virtual base class, right? So whenever you create a subclass using the virtual base class, then only one copy will be created in the subclass. That copy can be from via A B to D, or it can be from A C to D, right? So we have two paths, right? One is A, B, C, and this is D. One path can be like this and another path is like this. So this A that is copied inside this D is either from this path or this or from this path, right? So this D will be having only one copy of A from class A. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. Now coming to the main part, I am creating an object for class D similar to that of the previous example. Now you look at this one. So what is this one statement? What I am trying to do at this particular point? I am trying to assign a value of 10 to A that belongs with the object which is of class D, right? Now tell me whether it raises any error or it will simply execute.
Only one copy of A, sir, so no error.
Right,
Sir.
there is no confusion for the compiler. Why? Because there is only one copy of A in the D. Therefore, whatever value I give to this A, it is assigned. Therefore, what is the value that I have assigned here? It is 10. Now coming to the second one, object dot A is equal to 100. This time the author is trying to assign a value of 100 to the data member A using the object of class D. Now what happens? Does it raise any error?
No, sir.
No, it
Awesome.
won't raise any error. Why? Because there is no ambiguity here. There is no confusion to the compiler. The compiler clearly knows that class D consists of only one data member A. One copy of A is there inside this class D. Therefore, nothing is there to confuse the compiler. Whenever the compiler gets confused, then only it will raise an error. Right. So what happens here is I am trying to assign a value of 100 to A, which from using the object of class D. Right. So this value which is already present, the 10 which is already assigned to A, will be overwritten with 100. So it will store the latest value. What is the latest value I have for A?
100, sir.
100, right? So this A consists of 100, and by making use of this statement, object B, object dot B is equal to 20, B is assigned a value of 20, and from the next statement C is assigned a value of 30, and from the next statement D is assigned a value of 40. Right. Now I am just printing it. So what is the output I get here?
100, sir.
100, sir.
100, right? Why? Because it has overridden the old value 10 with 100, and here I will get 20, and
20.
here I will get 30,
30,
and at this point I will get 40.
40.
Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes,
So I have avoided the ambiguity that arises due to multipath inheritance by making use of virtual base classes. This is how you create a virtual base class. So while you are making use of the hierarchical inheritance, that means when you are creating multiple subclasses from a single base class, that is what is hierarchical inheritance, right? Creating multiple subclasses from a single base class is called as hierarchical inheritance. So when you make use of the hierarchical inheritance, you please try to make use of the keyword called virtual, so that it will avoid, the virtual keyword will avoid copying of the same data members into the same class when these two base classes or the two subclasses, the B and C, are used to derive to another subclass called class D. Right? Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So the same thing we are going to discuss, virtual base classes. Virtual base classes are used in virtual inheritance. What is this virtual inheritance?
Hybrid inheritance. Sir.
Hybrid inheritance, right? So it is used, the virtual base classes is used to prevent multiple instances of a given class appearing in an inheritance hierarchy when using multiple inheritances. It is used to just prevent the multiple copies, that's it. simply remember one statement: virtual base classes are used to prevent the multiple copies to be generated. So the same thing we are going to explain. Class A, and this is class B, and class C, that is derived from class A. So it will have the two copies of A. The class D has been again derived from class B and class C, and therefore D has now two A's. One A is from B and another A is from C. This leads to the ambiguity, right? So this thing already we have executed. Why it leads to the ambiguity? Why? Because it confuses the compiler. It confuses the compiler, and the compiler doesn't know which copy of A should be used for operations. Now till now we have gone through one particular concept. That means whenever we have a data member, but this time I am trying to give an example where I have multiple copies of functions, right? See here, what is the first class I have? What is the name of the class?
A, sir.
A. So in the public section, what I have defined here, is it a member or member function? Data member or member function?
Member function, sir.
Number functions.
It is a member function. What is the name of the member function?
Show, sir.
What is the return type of this show?
Void, sir.
Right.
Void.
What is the statement I have written here?
See out hello from
See out hello from A. Right. Now I have derived class B from class A, and it is a public derivation, right? And there is no body for this class, even though it doesn't have any body. Since class B has been created from class A publicly, the show function is present here. Actually we don't have a copy, right? The show function of A is also present in this function, in this class. Similarly, I have created a subclass called C, which is publicly inherited from A, and the body of this class C is also empty. But since it is publicly inherited from class A, it consists of the member function show. And now we get to the last one. Class D is created from class B and class C, which is publicly inherited, right? Now tell me what happens here. It is your turn.
the compiler gets confused, sir.
Now why it gets confused? What happens? The body of class D is empty, but
Yes, sir.
since the D has been derived from B and C, what happens here?
The command is given twice, sir.
The show function is copied twice. This is what you have to tell, right? The show function is copied. It's not the copying, actually we should not use the term copying. The show function is present inside class D twice. The first show is from class B and the second show is from class C, right? Now if I try to access this show function, I have created an object of class D and I am trying to access the show function. So object.show means it will go and check for this particular class definition, even though the body of class D is empty. But since it is publicly derived from class B and class C, it is having two copies of show. So now the compiler will get confused. Which show I have to activate or which show I have to invoke? Whether it is the show function from class B or whether it is the show function from class C. This is the confusion the compiler will get. That is the reason why we get the output as error. right? Now you tell me what modifications should I do to run this program? Anybody?
Using virtual keywords, sir.
Right, let us go with the first solution. We have two solutions to avoid such type of ambiguity. The first one is using the scope resolution operator. You give me the solution using scope resolution operator. Yeah, please tell me.
Object dot class D scope resolution operator show and parenthesis.
Right, so we should write it as object dot, this show is the confusing part, right? So if I tell the compiler that this show should be invoked from class B or class C, then the confusion will be avoided by the compiler, right? So I should tell like this: object dot, let us take the show from B, right? So B scope resolution operator show, clear, right? So by this statement the compiler will invoke the show function that belongs to B using the object that belongs to class D. Now tell me the statement, how to invoke the show function that belongs to C.
Object dot class C scope resolution
Object dot
operator
is not
show.
class C, we should make use of
Okay.
only C.
C.
Right. C scope
Scope
resolution
resolution
operator show, that's it.
Show.
Simple, right? So this is how I avoided the
Yes, sir.
ambiguity using the scope resolution operator. Now tell me the second solution. How can I avoid the ambiguity using, what is the second solution?
Virtual keyword.
Super.
Virtual
Virtual base classes. Don't make it as virtual keyword. You try to say it as avoiding the ambiguity using virtual base classes. Now tell me where I should take the modifications.
Class D.
Class B
Yes,
colon
super, right? So when
virtual
you are
Virtual
making
public
use of the hierarchical inheritance, you should derive the class publicly or whatever it may be. We are not bothered about the mode of access, right? You should derive the class using virtual keyword. So here I keep it as virtual public A, right? Is it enough? Is this modification
Class
enough,
C
or
also
I need to do
needs
any modifications?
in class C, sir.
So this public A or the class A is again used to create class C. So here also you have to use the virtual. So if you write the virtual in only one class derivation here, and if you don't write this virtual in the second class derivation, it will also raise an error, right? So how many classes you create by making use of this single class A? All the subclasses should be derived virtually, should be derived using the virtual base classes, right? Now I write like this: public virtual A. Is it right or not? Is it the correct
It's
syntax, or
right.
there is any error?
No, sir. Correct sentence, sir.
It is correct only. Why? Because as I said that the virtual and public keywords can be interchangeably used. You can use them interchangeably, right? So by making these simple modifications, we are just avoiding the inheritance. We are just avoiding the ambiguity. Now when I make these virtual base classes, when I use these virtual base classes, what is that it is happening in class D? That is also important. You should know that particular point. So what is that is happening in class D? How many show functions are there in class D?
2, sir.
How many
One,
show?
sir.
One,
There
sir.
exists only one show function, right? Since you have derived this B and C from class A, but you are deriving it in the virtual mode, only one copy of this show function will be present inside this class D, right? So this is also another important point you should know. Only one copy will be kept inside the derived class. Now object dot show means which function it will invoke?
Hello from
Hello from A only, but the show function is invoked by using the object of class D. Therefore this function will be invoked. There is no confusion for the compiler. Why? Because we have only one show function. If there are more than one show function, then there will be a confusion for the compiler, and ultimately it will lead to an error. Right. Since we are having only one show function, that show function will be invoked without any errors. So the output will be, at this particular case, the output will be hello from A. Is it clear up to this point?
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So the two solutions are very important. One is using the scope resolution operator and another one using the virtual base classes. Both of them we have seen with one example each. Right. The same thing we are repeating, that's it. Right. But we'll get some important points regarding this virtual base classes. Please concentrate on this slide. The first point is virtual base classes offer a way to save space. Can anybody tell me why it is saving space?
Only one is invoked, the other is not copied.
Super, right. By using the virtual base classes, we are going to create only one copy. Either it is from B or C, we are going to create only one copy. Thereby we are saving the space. In the previous example, we have used only one data member, but in the real life examples or the real time programming practice, you will come across a lot of data members. You need to deal with a lot of data members and lot of member functions. So in such cases, you will save a lot of space by making use of this virtual base classes. And the second one is, it is used to avoid the ambiguities in class hierarchies that use multiple inheritances, right? So one is, the virtual base classes are used to save space, that is one advantage, and the second one is, it is purely used to avoid the ambiguity in the class hierarchies. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. This is where the virtual
Yes, sir.
base class meaning comes. So when a base class is specified as a virtual base class, it is going to act as an indirect base class, and it avoids the duplication of its data members. As I told in the earlier slide itself, when somebody asks you what is the use of this virtual base class means, one is it is used to save the space, second one is it is used to avoid the ambiguity by, how can it avoid the ambiguity?
By using virtual base class, sir.
Yeah, that is true, but my question is, what is the purpose of virtual base class? Then you should answer this. Virtual base classes are used to save space, that is the first point, and virtual base classes are used to avoid the ambiguities. But how it is going to avoid the ambiguity means, it will avoid duplication of its data members, or else you can say like this also, it will not create multiple copies of the data members, or else you can also say like this, only one copy of the data member is created. Like that, there are number of ways to express these things, right? But basically the virtual base classes avoids ambiguity by avoiding the duplication of its data members, right? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
a single copy of its data member is shared by all the classes that use virtual base class. Only a single copy of data members is created, and that is only shared, right? To resolve this ambiguity, when class A is inherited in both class B and class C, it is declared as virtual base class by placing a keyword called virtual, right? So class B is derived from class A, but I am making this as a virtual base class by using the keyword virtual. Similarly, class C is derived from class A, and I am making this A as the virtual base class. So when I make this class A as the virtual base classes, you are able to make only one copy of the data members from A. Right. So as I told that virtual can be placed before or after the public keyword. Now only one copy of the data or the function, member function, will be copied to class C and class B, and class A become the virtual base class. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. Now tell me, what is the output of this function, output of this program? Anybody, please try to
A
explain.
equals to 10, sir.
So,
10, sir.
so here I have a class A. Here I have class A, and it has a data member called A, and I have a constructor in the class A, right? And I am assigning a value, I am initializing a value of 10 to this data member, public data member A. And class B, you can see here, it is derived from class A, but I am making this class A as the virtual base class. Similarly, class C is created from class A, but the class A is made as a virtual base class, right? And class D is derived from class B and class C. Therefore, how many copies of A and constructor will be there in
One,
class
sir.
D?
One copy.
One copy of A will be there, and similarly the constructor is also there. Let us assume. Now I have created an object for class D. Right. Now what I am doing, I am just printing the value of A. A is equal to object.A. So it will directly go and access this A. There is nothing to confuse for the, there is no confusion for the compiler. Why? Because only one copy is there. You just go and grab it. That's it. So the value, whenever I create the object, the constructor will be invoked. Is it the constructor of D is invoked or constructor of A is invoked?
Constructor of A, sir.
Constructor of A,
There is
sir.
no constructor for D, right? So since D has been derived from B and C, it will go and check the definitions of B and C. They are also empty. Since B and C are derived from virtually from class A, it will go and check the class A. Since it has the constructor, the value of 10 will be assigned to the public data member of class A, which is A, and therefore it will print the output as A is equal to 10. Right? Is it clear?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Right. So we'll stop here, and why? Because the next topic is somewhat lengthier topic. We need to explain a lot of things, right? So we'll stop here and we'll continue the same class with the inheritance concept. Almost the inheritance concept is completed. So we have seen all the types of inheritance, and we have seen what is the ambiguity that arises during the multipath inheritance, and how we can resolve it using the scope resolution operator and the virtual base classes. So at max the inheritance concept is completed. So in tomorrow's class we will go through these abstract classes, and then we'll see this upcasting in C++, and then the virtual functions, pure virtual functions, pure virtual definitions, and we will end up the discussion by discussing the advantages and disadvantages of inheritance. Right. So this is how we have planned tomorrow. Tomorrow at what class? At what time we have our class? 11 to 12, I think, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is end of today's session. Thank you one and all. You can leave
Thank
the
you, sir.
session.